but 24% of far left think it's okay to retaliate. You see all these videos. We should kill him and see the bloods in the streets. We should put the scare of death in the conservatives so they'll never do this ever again. This is what we should be doing. Are you kidding me? And
well, it's good to speak to you under these circumstances because you've done a pretty good job and, from our scene, very, very balanced in trying to understand the motive behind the assassination and what it means for the American society. So I'm genuinely very excited to have that discussion, to get your thoughts and dig a bit deeper because there's a lot to unpack. So let's start with the motive of Tyler. Why he did what he did, because it's a bit confusing. So he did have casings. One of them, they had writings on there, engravings on there. One of them said, "Oh, Bella Ciao, Ciao, Ciao," which is an anti-fascist anthem. Another one said, "Hey, fascist catch," anti-fascist insult. And then you've got some weird ones. And the casing he used for the shooting said, "Notices, bulges, OWO, what's this?" Noticing is a 4chan meme. I'm sure you've looked into it, which is something about spotting patterns like demographic changes or stereotypes. And bulges hints at physical traits. So it just makes it very confusing on why he did what he did. Because his family said he wasn't political. The family's MAGA, but they did say he's leaning left, more and more left, and did not like Charlie Kirk. And there's also reports of him having a transgender partner.
Mm-hmm.
Putting all these together, why do you think he did what he did? And obviously, we're going to find out more things later. And I'll add one more thing, Patrick, one more thing. He said when Kash Patel talked about the reasoning he gave, a message he put on Discord, when asked why he did what he did, he said, quote, "Some hatred cannot be negotiated with." I'd love you to go into his mind and give me your thoughts on what he was thinking and why you got there.
Great question. So, and also the father was a Mormon trying to deal with the pastor or whoever he was working with to make sure his son doesn't go far left because he felt like he lost his son. But to me, if he stays alive, what we see is exactly what it is. Okay, if he stays alive. If in the next few days, say in the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, next 2 months, he dies, a story comes out. He hung himself. He killed himself. Somebody killed him. Something happened. Then you're opening up the can of worms that there's something else there that's trying to hide of whoever was behind it. And nobody wants to get to that point because we're going to get to another John F. Kennedy assassination. We're going to get to another one of these situations of what happened to Epstein, who did MLK. And that's going to take us years to go through, find out what happened here. So that motive. Now, in regards to how we got here, a stat was shown earlier today on CNN by an individual that was a guest on a show with Abby Phillips, and the gentleman brought up on, hey, Abby asked the question, why are so many people on the left being targeted? Just because you talk about cancellation on the conservative side, now you're doing it to us, and that's unfair. And the guy states some of the stats that just came out, which is absolutely amazing. I'm sure you've seen this, where he breaks it down from YouGov, I believe. And on YouGov, it breaks down what percentage of Americans, liberal, conservative, very conservative, believe it's okay to retaliate with political differences with violence. And here's what the charts came out. When you look at, I'll read the question for you first. It says most Americans say it's unacceptable to be happy with public figures' deaths, meaning they get killed. But younger and more liberal Americans are more likely to call it acceptable. So they asked the question by different ideology. Very liberal, 24% said it's okay to take somebody out for political differences. This is political ideology, maybe difference. Public figures. 10% of liberals agreed, 7% of moderates, 4% of conservatives, and 3% of very conservative. So go far right, only 3% of far right agree that it's okay to do that, but 24% of far left think it's okay to retaliate. You see all these videos. We should kill them and see the bloods in the streets. We should put the scare of death in the conservatives so they'll never do this ever again. This is what we should be doing. Are you kidding me? And then Elon just retweeted something saying Destiny, should be doing time for a guy of that caliber to put that out there. You don't think people are watching to see what comments that are being made? So let me bring you back to the question of Tyler Robinson. So take the conspiracy theory community. Well, I think it's the Groypers. Well, I think it's, Israel. Well, I think it's, that was a patsy, the George Zinn guy. Maybe. Well, the George Zinn guy was also at the 9/11, and he's always been at these different places that he goes to the last 40 years. He shows up in the most random places, and he gotten arrested before for some of the things that he said. Or maybe let's just take it at face value. But if it's face value, and the mainstream media and influencers and people who didn't like Trump start using words like fascist, Nazis, that continues, a kid like him is going to say, you know what? I'm going to be the hero and I'm going to take the guy out. And who does he take out? The one guy that's going to be very difficult for conservatives to duplicate and replicate. There is no Charlie Kirk out there. I had a call yesterday with the Turning Point USA management team, one of the higher-ups, and Justin, we're having this conversation together. And I told him, I said, what made Charlie unique is, one, he knew a lot about Christianity and the Bible. So he was well-read in faith, so that was an element of Billy Graham. Number two, he knew the Constitution very well because he studied Hillsdale College and he would read all the books, so he knew the Federalist Papers, so he can debate you on politics. Those are two. But we have a lot of people that know the Bible well. We have a lot of people that know politics well. But then very few worked as hard as him. Very few were as a true believer of him. And then very few know how to deliver and communicate the way he was able to do. Tell me who exists in America right now that can do all those five things. There is no Charlie Kirk. A lot of people are going to say, who's going to be the next Charlie Kirk? Who's going to be the next Charlie Kirk? I think the better thing to say is the same way conservatives waited to say, who's the next? We need a Ronald Reagan. We need a Ronald Reagan. There will never be another Ronald Reagan. Just like there will never be another Donald Trump. And just like there will never, ever be another Charlie Kirk. So this guy didn't just take anybody out. I do think the movement's going to continue. I do think young guys are going to rise up. But I think the motive as of right now, if it's black and white, when you spew as much hate that the left did, you're going to eventually inspire a Tyler Robinson to get up there and do something about it.
Me and you are believers in free speech, and that's where it gets a bit tricky. I know you've talked about this on your show. Where do you draw the line, or do you draw the line? So does that, Charlie Kirk fought for free speech, but now people on the left are using free speech to meme his death and laugh at his death and celebrate his death. Should both be okay? Is that how society should function in a democracy like the US?
You believe in capitalism?
Yes.
Okay. Do you believe in monopoly laws, or should we remove monopoly laws?
Somewhere in the middle.
Okay, me too. But do you think if an AT&T bought up every other long-distance service provider and the government didn't get in the way, and there was only one AT&T to go through and we couldn't go to other places to get phone services, then all of a sudden they would have gone from 4 cents a minute to 40 cents, but you don't have another competition. Guess what? Pay or don't pay. You don't have a choice. So I think you would agree that there needs to be certain limits to monopoly laws because competition is good for who? You and I, the consumer. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
I do.
Okay. The same way monopoly laws are needed for capitalists like us is the same way you need, like if right now you and I, yesterday I had Tommy Robinson on the podcast and the interview went live today. If all of a sudden you're out there announcing to go and kill people and you're encouraging violence, you've crossed freedom of speech. I think the same way capitalism has monopoly laws, there needs to be certain limits to you encouraging people to commit a crime and kill somebody. When you say you want blood in the streets, I've seen blood in the streets. When I lived in Iran and many Hezbollah and different folks in the streets were flagellating their backs, screaming death upon America, Mark Bad America. And you see, I've seen that. That's not normal in America. So there is no place in America for people to say, seek vengeance and kill the opposition. That is not, if it's left, right, center, that crosses the line for freedom of speech for me. If we're sitting there and debating ideas, pro-vaccine, and think about taking a vaccine, I think we should debate it. If it's out there sitting there saying, hey, socialism, communism, capitalism, great. You can debate communism, no problem, even though we know communism killed God knows how many tens of millions of people, but you're not trying to incite violence. You're just, presenting your argument on communism. No problem. Let's have that conversation. Pro-life, pro-choice, let's debate it. Even though some people may take pro-choice as a crime, as you're killing a baby, on the conservative side, no, you know what, let's have that debate. But when you're saying the element of let's go in the streets and kill people, and people take action, and nobody gets ahead of it right now, here's what could happen. Mario, let's go to worst case scenario. The job of a businessman, a military guy, if you're in the military, you're out there in war and you're looking at which way to go. If we go this way, what's the worst case scenario that's going to happen? What's the best case? If we go this way, what's going to happen? Let's say one of the members of Turning Point USA who is mentally not there, but is fully, maniacally supportive of Charlie Kirk, and they're devastated right now. And they're seeking vengeance. I got a call yesterday from the FBI, from a couple of the people that work in the U.S. government, and they had a call. They say, hey, we just wanted to call you and tell you you're on a short list of 50 names. What's the short list of 50 names? You're on the list. What list? Just be careful. Increase security in the next couple months. I didn't know that. You are. All right, great. Well, thank you for the warning. So guess what I've been doing since the Vol conference last week? Last week we had 8,000 people in the room. Tony Robbins is on stage. He gets off stage, and I'm about to pray. And then I'm told Charlie Kirk died. Vinny signals me, and then it was a whole different thing what went into. But who's the opposite of Charlie Kirk? I don't even want to say names. Take the Charlie Kirk of the left. And let's say it's a person that's got tens of millions of followership on the left, maybe the far left. Say somebody takes that person out. What do you think happens to America? You think that side's going to protest the way conservatives did? Conservatives didn't go destroy businesses and get in the streets doing, local. They didn't do that. What did they do? They mourned. They're praying. They're sending money. They're trying to find a way to make sure Erica, Charlie's wife, is going to go through these challenges the best, because no one has more pain than her, than his kids, and his parents, and then his closest friends and family. They're the ones that are going through all the pain. But if an event like that just happens right now, what happens to America? You think maybe we are days away from martial law? In California, I lived in California, we watched wildfires that would happen. You're driving down the 405 freeway, it's so hot, fire on both sides. How is it that California, Southern California, Palos Verdes, fire happens, you couldn't put the fire out for a week, for 2 weeks in some cases, and you're 2 miles away from the ocean. Once fire spreads, wildfire, nobody can stop it. In 2025, technology doesn't exist to stop wildfire. But that was still a 20-mile radius, a 5-mile radius, a 50-mile radius. You know what is 100 times worse than wildfire? If somebody on the opposing end right now gets shot and assassinated, schools shutting down, streets shutting down, curfew limits, National Guard in every city in America. And it makes me think about who would want that, Mario. A part of me that's a little bit skeptical, and I'm part of the Andy Grove community of only the paranoid survive. I believe the future looks bright, but you also got to think about only the paranoid survive. Who would want that in America? Who's right now having a hard time with negotiating tariffs? Who's right now having a hard time getting deals to get done? Who is about to lose Mexico? Who is making it challenging for them to do business in Mexico? China? Who would want America to be a shit show today? Who? I don't know. I have a list of countries that I go down. Who is not happy that the president's making as much progress as he is? Who doesn't want that? A lot of people. So as I go through this rabbit hole and I'm thinking about everything that's going on, the main thing I pray for is for there not to be retaliation on the other end, because if there is retaliation on the other end, let me tell you, it's no longer America. It's a very different country we're living in.
Where would you put that risk? If I ask you to give it a number out of 100, how close are we to
The likelihood of it?
Of this becoming a wildfire?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not above 50%, which is good, but I am at 20%. And 20% is very high, Mario. 20% is not a low number. Like, you know what 20% is? 1 out of 5 chance of it happening. You don't want to be 20%. But that's my opinion. Somebody may be watching and saying, you're delusional. It's less than 1%. I hope you're right. But I'm at 20%. So then all I think about is if I'm the administration, what would I be doing to, and by the way, you look at some people on social media. Notice everybody on social. If I watch you, what does Mario do? Here's the facts. Here's what came out. This is what we know. Go. Then you look at people that lowered the temperature on social media today. Then you have a community of people that increase the temperature today. Okay, those that increase the temperature today, what do you want to take away from these guys? Time. The sooner you can give definitive evidence that this guy was the shooter and he is who he did that, and lower the temp, the sooner you hurt these guys. Because these guys want to come out and say, let me tell you what I think happened. I got off a phone call and this person told me that it was really this person and that person. And all these young people are watching, like, you know what? I'm going to go out there. No. Lower the knob. Temp. Lower. So the right administration's there to lower the knob, lower the temperature. I hope they do, because you thought COVID was bad. This is not going to be COVID. This is going to be catastrophic. This could turn into a country we've never. It's a movie that will be seen. Again, I don't want to see that happen at all. I'm a businessman. This hurts me as a businessman. And I'm a family man. I got 4 kids. I don't want to see this happen. I'm a man who loves freedom. I'm a man who loves America. I love freedom of speech. I want to hear the discourse. But leaders in moments like this who lower temperature, those are heroes that we have. I'm not saying let's not find out the truth. I want to know exactly what happened to you. I want to know exactly what the truth is. I still want to know what happened to the president. We still don't know what happened, at Butler. I mean, no, mind-boggling. We still don't know that. So for me, the more you delay getting to the bottom of things, the more you allow this community to get louder and louder and louder and louder, the more you give them credibility. Why give them so much credibility? Your job is to take credibility away from them, the loud ones. Let's focus on signal. We have so much noise right now, but a part of the noise, I hate to say, the part of the noise is the speed of how things are being resolved right now. And the more you take your time, the bigger they're going to get.
Just going back to the question earlier, is where you draw the line. You talk about incitement for violence. Now, that's illegal in the US if it's seen as imminent. But then, do you think that people celebrating Charlie Kirk's death, as disgusting as me and you find it, and I've called it out on my account for the last few days, should that be allowed? Should that be considered freedom of speech? Or for the people on the left calling the president a fascist, or people on the right calling Democrat leaders pedophiles? Should those things be allowed on both sides? Should people be allowed to celebrate the death, even though we find it appalling? And if not, how do you deal with it?
It's such a slippery slope conversation. When the founding fathers created the Constitution and wrote the Federalist Paper, and as they were going through it, they knew the difference between two things. They were dealing with people, those who knew how to reason and those who were very ambitious. Those who were thinking about what's best for the country and those who were thinking about what's best for them. They knew historically human nature has been the same from day one. Okay? What's mine? How am I going to get credit? Am I going to get credit properly? How much am I going to get paid? How does this benefit me and my family? Are the history books going to write about me? Me. They know that. So when you have something like that, you can't say, well, let's create a system that people can't talk. Well, no, we don't want that. Let's create a system that people can talk. Oh, shit, if they can't talk, they're going to talk shit about us. Yeah, but the alternative is worse than this one. So TMZ, when the folks at TMZ, when you time it and they say, well, they were celebrating because of a car chase in Temple City. So we timed the exact moment when that happened on our podcast. And you see, there is nothing to celebrate. So Harvey says, our team was celebrating the car chase. I've never met anybody that celebrates a car chase. And if we go to the second where they were watching it on the news, the car chase, it's when the guy announces that Charlie Kirk, President Trump just announced that Charlie Kirk has been killed. And then you hear this screaming in the background, and you see Charles going to the back to see what's going on, and Harvey doesn't know how to handle it because their business model is what? 200 cameras in one location. Everyone knows what's going on. When you listen to it, it's not one person. It's not two. Sounds like it's about 3 to 5 people celebrating. Do I think everybody at TMZ is celebrating Charlie Kirk's assassination? No, I don't believe that. Do I think those 3 to 5 should get fired? I think if I'm running an operation and I'm the guy that's running the business, if you celebrate the assassination of anybody on the left, right, center, I don't want you at the company because I'm concerned what you're capable of doing in the future at the company.
No,
that's my concern. You're mentally not there if you're celebrating that. But do I think, incite is one, because incite is before the assassination, right? You're inciting. Celebration is after the assassination attempt, but it's very close to it. Because the celebration could be, oh, who's next? Now you're seeing these tweets. So now once you go from celebration to who's next, you're back to inciting violence. So you go to incite violence, then you go to, well, no, I'm just happy he's no longer here with us. Then you tweet who's next, you just came back up again. So I think if you go to who's next, you're inciting violence. I think that there needs to be a crime there, especially nowadays, because some young man may be inspired to deliver on what you're asking for.
Yeah, it is very tricky. Like both me and you covered what happened in Brazil. We both interviewed former President Bolsonaro. We covered what happened in Europe, in the UK. Now I was with Congressman Jim Jordan last week. And now I was speaking to Tommy Robinson as well last week. And he said, Mario, the last bastion of free speech is the US. And if that falls, then the rest of the world falls. But it's also, I asked Jim Jordan a question. I said, is that a flaw of democracy? Is that a flaw of the First Amendment? A genuine fundamental flaw that we might need to address, that me and you, Patrick, should we question our belief in Elon's belief in free speech? Or should we stand firm despite what we saw in the last few days?
The one thing that the legislature, the guys who create the laws and they do what they do, you can consider doing what you did with a driver's license. You need to be 16 years old to have a driver's license. You need to be 18 years old to smoke cigarettes. Okay? 21 to drink alcohol. Renting cars, it used to be 25 years old. I don't know what it is today. But there's some age stuff that you can think about. But if you even did that, and you said, well, what percentage, like if there's one person that has access to this data, it's Elon. If I were to go and I'm one of the, I'm a CIO at Elon's company, Chief Information Officer, I'm getting the numbers and I hire 5 BIs, business analysts, I bring in business intelligence, say, guys, let's go pull up how many tweets we've gotten since Charlie Kirk's assassination celebrating of what happened and bring that data to me. You bring it to me. Okay. So it shows we have, I don't know, 3.8 million users that celebrate. Let's pick a number, whatever. I don't know if it's that's the number, but let's say it's 3.8 million. Then I take the 3.8 million and I say, here's what I want you to do. I want you to break it down by the accounts that we have the most information on them. Eliminate the bots. 68% is bots. Get rid of them. Okay, boom. Just give me the people that are paying $15 a month. Whatever the monthly payment you have to pay for X. Is it $15, $9? Pull those because those are real. You're not going to create a lot of fake accounts. 98% accuracy. The average person is not going to pay $15 a month to create a bot. So out of that 3.8 million, now we're down to 700,000 people. All right. Now let's take that 700,000 people hypothetically, and let's see what's the age category. 52% is between 18 to 25. Okay. So all right. 28% is 25 to 30. Let's create the demos. Then states, then regions, then countries. Then background, then educate. What for? The moment we do that, now we can see patterns and make suggestions and say, well, look, this is the pattern we're noticing. Well, why don't we create something? Because I do think Elon can help influence this as well in his own way, because whatever Elon does, the other guys are going to follow him. Notice when Elon made a $15 a month payment, Facebook followed, right? Elon came and said, hey, we're going to do, such and such, Facebook, Instagram followed. So if Elon comes out and says, this is what we're going to be doing. If you're inciting violence, it's a 30-day suspension. Like, on YouTube, you get a strike, you get 2 and then boom. So what if he creates your 1-day suspension, 1-week suspension? Those things exist today, but they're not that black and white. I think there is a little bit of that can be done where you're almost put in timeout room, right? Kid says something, you don't get iPad for a week, okay? You go drink and drive, cop pulls you over, you're going to spend, if it's Friday, you're going to be in jail till Monday, right? Man, I don't want to get another DUI. So I think there's some things like that for us to do. And then if we're able to give people scores, like if we have a FICO score, you got an 820, here's $1 million loan. You got a 720, here's $1 million loan, but at an 8% interest rate. You got a 620, here's a $200,000 loan, right? I'm not even going to give you that, and it's going to be a 12% interest rate. What if we create a FICO score on X, and again, Elon has the brilliant minds working for him. What if we create a FICO score that shows how reasonable this person's post is? Not positive, not negative, how reasonable based on facts. And then when I'm looking at someone's tweets and I see this guy's sensational, he's extremely exaggerating, well, guess what? Bring him lower. Wow, this guy's a voice of reason. Raise him higher. I do think now people will calibrate. Like I was trying to buy Mr. Olympia brand 7 years ago. And what I wanted to buy by buying Mr. Olympia brand is I wanted to get away from the 350-pound bodybuilders. I wanted to go back to Frank Zane, 29-inch waist. You got the chest and small waist and beautiful legs and the symmetrical body like Steve Reeves, like Hercules from back in the days 70 years ago, because we could have used AI, we could have used data to see what makes the perfect symmetrical body like Serge Nubret. Elon can take that data to create the score of who has the most reasonable way of delivering message, and let's highlight those names. Then we know where it's coming from. But I don't think getting away 100% is the right way to go. I do think it's elevating the people that are the most reasonable.
In theory, that sounds great, and I agree. You use the algorithm to elevate the voices that are not inciting violence, that are trying to stick to facts. But I've seen your video talking about the Chinese, the social score that they have. Remember that? It was like a very dystopian system that they had. Do you worry that the example that you gave, like a very small step, if it's abused like we saw in Brazil, if it's abused like we saw in the UK, that it is a step towards what China has? And maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe China's on one extreme. And remember, I'm a free speech absolutist. But maybe China's on one extreme, which we both don't want to live in. I'm in Dubai right now. Dubai is not as extreme as China, but also is not as free as the US. I'm from Australia, a lot closer to the US. But the US is too extreme on the free speech side. I don't think it is. I'm a big believer in the First and Second Amendment, even though I don't live in the US. Big believer in freedom. But I also look at what happened. I look at these celebrations. I look at some of the stats as well. I'm going to mention some stats for you, Patrick, and get your thoughts on it. Because I dug into this to preparing for this interview, and I'm chatting to peers tomorrow as well. So I'm like, look, I need to know all the facts to make sure that we go beyond what we saw a few days ago with Charlie Kirk. And I started looking into the political violence. Is that really a problem? Well, according to studies, it's up 300% since 2016. I'd love to get your thoughts on why that is. And then I look at it and like, is it just a problem on the left? Because it seems like you got all these people on the left celebrating. You just gave me a very interesting stat earlier in the interview that shows that, hey, it is the far left that is more prone to violence, which I want to get your thoughts on why that is. But then I look at the assassination attempts as, attempts-wise, there's been more right-leaning shootings than left-leaning, about 75 to 25. There's a whole list of them there. And on the assassination attempts, there's been right-leaning attempts. There's one successful, which is Hortman. And then two on the left-leaning side. You got Kirk, successful and failed against Shapiro. So then I look at this, I'm like, this is only one stat. I'm sure there's much more stats we could dig into to really get to the facts. But then looking at the stat you mentioned, points to the left, extreme left, sorry. And then you look at those stats that I read earlier, it points to both sides. Is this a problem of polarization, or is it a problem more on the extreme left, like that meme that you posted on your account yesterday, Elon retweeted, that shows how the left is moving more to the left, and he shows someone with a sniper rifle. But is it like a few days ago we saw the extreme left falling, being prone to indoctrination? But could we see this develop into both sides? And you pointed at a concern that you don't want to see the right retaliate. should we be worried about both sides, or is it just the left? And if it is just the left, why is that?
Okay. Mari, do you have kids yet?
No.
No kids yet. Okay, you're a handsome guy. I'm sure you're going to have a lot of kids one day, but when you choose to do so. When you have kids, what you'll generally see, I have 4 of them, you will generally see one that is not afraid of the truth, one that is going to be emotionally, oh my God, it's not fair, you don't believe what he did, and they'll exaggerate the crime, okay? Right. And, you know, out of the 4 kids you have, if something happens, you're not there, you'll generally go to the one with the high credibility score. That's the most fair one, honest one, reasonable one to say, what do you think happened right there? And so let me tell you what happened. This time it was his fault. It wasn't her. And they're best friends. He's like, wait, yeah, because she didn't do it this time. It was him. You started. No, what are you talking about? You started. I watched the whole thing. And you're like, and he's like, you know what was that? And then 2 minutes, yeah, I started it. Okay, great. So what patterns do you notice? When I was building my insurance company and my sales guys would come up to me with ideas, guys would come up and they would say things like this. Well, people say that they want this idea. They want the comp plan to change because if it goes like this, the company's going to take a hit. I would say, you said people say? Yeah. Give me all the people's names. Who is they? Who is people say? Well, it's just a lot of people. How many people? Well, a lot of people. Give me their names. Go ahead. I got a pen and paper ready. Who? Well, it's Mary. Who else? Well, it's mainly Mary. Then why do you say people say? Just say Mary says. Don't over-exaggerate how many people are not happy with the comp. I know why Mary would say it. So guess what? No, I'm not open to the idea because I know what Mary's trying to do, right? So you have to decipher between the emotional comments and thoughts that are being said. So let's take the side. If you have one side conservative, one side liberal, if we have to give one side that owns the flag for feelings, which side would it be? The liberal, the far left, or the far right? It's going to be the liberal, right? Okay, so if we give that to the far left, what do they always say? It's not fair. It's not fair. It's not fair. I can't believe they did this. They should have never done this to you. It's emotions, feelings, right? And I am where I was on Jubilee with these 20 kids sitting around me, debating me for capitalism and anti-capitalism, and it's like, it's not. I am mentally ill. One girl literally said, I am mentally ill because of capitalism. I said, who convinced you you're mentally ill? And what does that have to do with capitalism? But someone convinced her she's a victim. So now you send your kids to schools, in colleges, we've seen this data all over the place. For every one conservative professor, you have 10 to 15 liberals. Best case is 8. 8 liberal professors to one conservative professor. Worst case is 15 to 1. So is that really debate? No, it's a true monopoly. If a company had that kind of monopoly, the government would come down and say, wait a minute, this is the FTC here. What are you here for? You guys got a monopoly. The FTC needs to go look at the universities and say, you guys got a monopoly on ideas. It's all on one side. I was at Harvard at OPM, Owner President Management Program that Harvard has. There you go for 4 weeks. But I was there when Trump and Hillary were debating, when he said, because you'd be in jail. I'm in the Chow Hall. Chow Hall is a man named Chow that built this place where you go and eat very good food. I'm in there. 300 people are watching the debate. And I'm sitting on the sideline to ask for myself, is it really true that Harvard's a liberal school? And keep in mind, I'm at Harvard business campus, not Harvard, the lawyer side, the legal side, the business side. Not one person of the 300 people got up to root for Trump. Not one person. Every time Hillary said something, yeah, woo, woo, Trump would say, boo, boo, boo. So who's had the control of the youth? Left ideology. So who do we want to blame this to? If my kids are around liberal professors and teachers their entire lives, and then you put them in college, they're 13 to 1, 10 to 1 with professors on the left or the right, what do you think is going to be happening? So they're not lying here when you see the numbers that says 24% of very liberal political ideology believes it's okay to retaliate with violence. And only 3% of very conservative says that. That's 8 times. This is not Fox News. This isn't Breitbart. This is YouGov. Who's given this report? The government is. This is a nonprofit that's going out there getting this data. You're not looking. This is as credible as a Pew Research that gives these numbers to us. So why is that happening? I think the reasonable community needs to be highlighted. The people who have the ability to reason and lower the temperature. So for me, and I'll turn it back over to you, is hero making machine is broken in America. Until we get this right, everyone will be confused. In America today, we don't know what a hero is. A person could have 3 million followers on Instagram and that person's a hero. No, she's just got a really nice butt and small waist and beautiful breasts and great lips and nice toes. She's got 3 million followers, okay? A guy could have 2.8 million YouTube subscribers and you're like, oh my God, that guy must be a genius. No, he may be talented, he may be capable, but he may be having some ideas that are not good for Americans. He may be somebody that doesn't want to have kids, doesn't want to get married, doesn't believe in God, believe transgenders, believes we should use all the pronouns, the he, she, the they, them, all that other. He believes the rich are horrible people, the capitalists, while YouTube is sending him AdSense money, a couple $100,000. And they're living a nice lifestyle. They're eating sushi. They're eating ikura. They're eating foie gras. They're eating Wagyu beef. They're eating good food. They're no longer eating Chipotle. They got money in the bank now. And what happened all of a sudden? We don't know who the hero is. To me, going back to when we were talking about, aren't you worried that this could turn into the system that China has? 10 years ago, there was this website that came out called Clout, Klout. I think they shut it down because guys weren't feeding into the algorithm, so eventually the guys couldn't do, but they had the right idea. Forget about Clout. Clout was about how big of a clout you got in a marketplace. I don't care about Clout. I want to know what they say out of their mouth, how biased they are, how reasonable they are, how fair they are, and then let's highlight these people.
Right.
And on X, allow me to have a filter that I don't want to see any of the porn. I don't want to see any of the hardcore bias. I don't want to see any of the radical emotional people. And I just see the people in the specific score. So, for example, like we just, this year we've had 16,000 resumes the first 6 months that people applied to work at our company. Well, the challenge is we've only interviewed 2,400 of them. How do I know if I'm hiring the best people? I don't know. Well, we just, for the last 2 years, we developed a SaaS software that does a 5-minute, you upload your resume on hiremetrics.com with a CS, METRICS, hiremetrics.com. You upload your resume, you do a 5-minute interview, and it spits out a score based on specialized skill, competency, and culture. Then these scores come to me 82, 81, 73, 58, 28. And I say, I don't want to see anybody under 70. Just give me the candidates score above 70. Great. Today you got 28 people scored above 70. Let's look at these guys. Boom, boom, boom. Awesome. Schedule an interview with all these guys. So I need a filtering part. We have enough data right now to filter out the noise. And Kevin O'Leary gave him a very big compliment. Kevin said, I work with Steve Jobs, and I'm sure you've seen this clip before. Kevin said Steve Jobs was 90% signal, 10% noise. He says, I've worked with Elon. Elon is as close to 100% signal as possible. I think Elon can start this signal noise filter, and I think a lot of other people will follow through. Not silencing them, not allowing them not to be there. Just highlight people that are not creating more chaos. I think those are the guys that we need to highlight.
I agree, and I think the human brain already does that. Like I'm sure you mute accounts that do that kind of try to incite violence or say stupid shit or spread misinformation. So I think what you're recommending is to add in the algorithm the same thing that humans already have in our mind. We want a bullshit filter. So then you put that in the algorithm.
Yeah, but you're a reason guy, though. Think about it. So to me, my concern isn't us. So guys like us will filter through the BS. My concern is that 25% emotional community that won't. That is my concern. How do we get them to, see in different kind of content than encouraging more emotional reaction to it? That's what I meant by it. But please continue.
No, I agree. I do want to go back to a comment you made earlier, and I said to myself, I'm going to ask you about it. Then we got carried away. You said the FBI, someone from the FBI called you, and you're on a list of 50 names. Can you tell me more about that list and what action have you taken? Because I wouldn't have expected you. Like I thought about people that we targeted. I'm not worried about myself because I always try to be in the middle. I'm more geopolitical rather than focus on U.S. domestic politics. You do both, a lot more U.S. as well. But you tend to be more moderate. I know you tend to be, you praise Trump a lot and you praise a lot of his policies, but you do it in a very pragmatic way and you're critical of some things as well. Why do you think you're on a list and what actions have you taken?
Right. So good question. And by the way, I agree with you. I don't know why I'm on the list. When they called me, I got off the phone and I went about my business because I don't see myself as somebody that is coming from a place of trying to divide and conquer and, say things to get people emotional. But I will entertain having Tommy Robinson on. I will entertain having Anthony Weiner on. I will entertain having Andrew Tate on. I will entertain having a lot of people on the podcast. I had Netanyahu on. Go see my death threats that I got after the Netanyahu interview. Just let me send you the screenshots and the emails and see what it looks like. So to me, it's not necessarily about how fair you and I are. There's the element today of guilty by association. I'm going to talk to everybody and anybody. It doesn't matter if I'm talking to Kim Jong-un. I'll go to North Korea to interview him. No one's off my list. Nobody is. Except if you're using certain words to incite violence, I'm going to step back a little bit and entertain what I'm going to have you on. There's been only 7 interviews that I've never gone live with. 7 people I interviewed that we had the footage we never went live with. But for the most part, we'll go live with people.
Have you shared who those are?
No, I've never shared who those 7 people are, but it's 7 interviews that I've done who I've never released to the public. And we have it till today. It's 7 names that we never went live with. And those were the interviews that they said certain things that I said, you know what? I'm just not comfortable with this. We're not going to go live with this. And we just never went live with it. But going back to this, so when I got this call, here's what the market looks like right now. So it's very easy today to use CGI and make, you say something about Israel, Qatar is funding you. You say something about Qatar, Julius, can you tell the guys in the back? I can hear all of them. You say something about Qatar, oh, you're getting funded by Israel. No, Qatar's giving you money. No, you're owned by Mossad. No, you are Intel. No, you're CIA. And today, it's so easy to say those comments and then, I agree. Oh my God, maybe he's right. Maybe he is. And then boom, the rest is history, right? You just have to be careful. And to me, when you're asking about security, it comes down to 3 things. We had an emergency meeting last week, right after when Charlie Kirk got assassinated, that night till midnight at my house in Orlando. And we said 3 things we got to address: home, office, going on the road. So here we have, we're going to put a few $1 million into increasing security in all aspects of our lives. And that's just things that I've been in the insurance business for the last 25 years. We've sold 750,000 life insurance policies. It's not that you're going to be buying life insurance because you're dying tomorrow, but when it does happen, you're protected. We're just playing defense to make sure that part is scored away, but nothing is changing. I'm not changing the podcast. I'm not changing talking about what I believe in. I'm not changing interviewing and saying the stuff that I believe in. You can't move on with fear. Because when you do that, the enemy is winning. The enemy wants you to be scared. Half the time, the enemy just wants to, scare the hell out of you and shake you up where you're like trying to walk on eggshells. I've never met a leader amongst leaders that walked on eggshells. I have met leaders amongst leaders who are careful with the words they choose to use. I think that we have to improve on. Walking on eggshells and leadership doesn't go together.
It worries me that you started this by saying you entertain interviewing people like Tommy Robinson, like Andrew Tate. You interviewed Netanyahu. I've had Tommy and Tate last week, and I have Huckabee, not Netanyahu, I think tomorrow. So when you say this, I'm like, holy shit. All right, maybe I should consider it. I'm not on the list yet. But what's ironic is I haven't talked about it. It's like literally on the day that the shooting happened, and I haven't mentioned it because it's not about me. But now it's been a few days. Me and the team were talking about, because I've done a lot of coverage with Pakistan, so I've received some threats from that country. I'll probably bleep it in the recording, but from that country, I've received some threats. So we're talking about, hey, is Dubai really that secure? Should I really go do that interview in Eastern Europe? And then later, I see that video of Charlie Kirk, and it's just a shock. It's a shock that what me and you do. You go home to your family, you come home, you come to the office, give your opinion, talk about topics that people like me want to hear, and then find out that someone else is doing the same thing, like Charlie. Just got shot in the neck and died in front of his family. It does shake you. So it is a day that is hard to forget. Now, when things like this happen, a lot of emotions are flowing, and you do get always these theories, and you address theories again, very direct way. And one theory you address is Israel. People love to blame Israel for everything. Now, I'm very critical of Israel, what's happening in Gaza, less so Lebanon, Iran, and Yemen. But what's happening in Gaza, I'm very, very critical. But then I don't go around and blame Israel for every single thing that happens. You've addressed that on your show. You kind of looked into it, and people referenced a clip from your podcast with Charlie Kirk, when you were interviewing Charlie Kirk. Can you tell us about that clip, what the theory is, and what your thoughts are on it?
Right. So that was a day after October 7th event. I think Charlie was on our podcast. It was the first podcast he did out of all the podcasts. So his reaction was the raw reaction that was written about all over the place, and he probably got a lot of pushback. But if you watch the whole thing, he does go and say, I'm not saying they intentionally did this, but I am saying I have some questions. Again, he knows what words to use, where somebody else a little bit more emotional would have said, I know they were behind it, they did it. Charlie's more moderate when he's given his thing. So I think the part that's going back and forth right now on social is the meeting that took place with Bill Ackman and the influencers that came with Charlie with a total of 100 million followers, and maybe finding a way to address some questions about Israel, Judaism, Mossad that maybe haven't been answered. And that led to Charlie was getting close to, he didn't want to go back to Israel. Israel invited him. Maybe AIPAC invited him. He said no to it. And then eventually that one number that's being thrown around right now, that Bibi even offered $150 million to maybe have Charlie give more pro-Israel messages around the world. And do I believe something like that could have happened? Do I believe a $150 million offer was made? I think I'm 50-50 there. I think that offer could have been made because, quite frankly,
you got an offer from China a few years ago, no?
Oh, of course we did. Yeah, I got an offer from China. I got on a Zoom with them. I said, wait a minute. What do you want me to do? Yeah, we want you to come to an event, and we'll pay you $600,000, of which, by the way, this whole thing is documented that we have. So there is no,
No, you've talked about it. You've talked about it on your podcast.
Absolutely. Yeah. So these types of things happen. Because they said Turning Point USA was getting $150 million, so Israel wanted to give them another $150 million to give pro-Israel messages. So to me, let's go through all of them. Let's actually dissect those together. Let's say Bill Ackman had a meeting. He's a $10 billion guy, heavy guy, strong guy. And guy goes from being a liberal to conservative to supporting Trump. And during a time like the last election where he probably wasn't a guy that was going to support him, but he saw how the president of Harvard got fired because of him, and he's got major influence. So Ackman's been going like this, and he's becoming a power player, probably not somebody the left likes too much right now. But he gives me the vibes of a reasonable player. He doesn't give me the vibes of a emotional player. If you want to learn more about Ackman, go watch the video of him and Carl Icahn on that one call. If you've never seen it, it's made for TV. Just go watch it. Carl Icahn is calling him out nonstop, and Ackman is staying here. He's not getting emotional. He's taking it from a legend. Icahn is a GOAT in his space. Icahn is calling him out because the whole Herbalife thing that they're going back and forth with. And Bill Ackman is just like, well, here's this. Okay, and anyways, that was an L for him. But he took it in the chin, so you got to give him respect. So do I think Ackman, brought these people in to try to sell them on Israel? Yes. Do I think Netanyahu tried to get Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA to be more pro-Israel? Yes. The most hated man in the world right now, you saw the score. I think Musk was 1, Bibi was 2, or some number like that. I think Musk was 1, Bibi was 2. But, why is Bibi hated? Why is the market kind of split on him? And not split in 50-50. It's a higher on the dislike and lack of trust on some of the things that he's doing. Why? What happened? What did he do? How much of the onus is on him? And don't countries and leaders have to find a way to increase their likeliness? They're being liked in the world. And so he's trying to go to somebody that's got a big mouthpiece, Charlie Kirk, who makes content go viral. Hey, let us come and support you. By the way, in the last 12 months, names have been added for people that took money from Russia. You saw that one right there where people getting paid $100,000, $200,000. You got a couple guys that took money from another organization that is from the leftist organization where Pacman and a couple other guys were on the list, where Pacman actually addressed it up front and talked about it. But people that were paying folks on the left to, encourage the ideas that they have. This is not a new thing. Qatar's paying money. A lot of people are paying money. So, yes, America went around for decades selling America to people. Reagan went to Gorbachev and told him, Gorbachev, here's what you got to do to make Russia better. We're selling American exceptionalism for a long time. And Israel's trying to do the same thing. I think the $150 million makes me a little bit uncomfortable that you're doing that. And the fact that Charlie didn't take the money is kudos to him. I don't know the whole story, but the fact that he didn't take it, good for him. It's funny because the last 6 months, If you look at a lot of the stuff people were saying about Charlie, Charlie is a Zionist, he is bot, he is this, he's that. And we had to lose Charlie to learn about the fact that he wasn't bot. And it's unfortunate because sometimes you had Charlie who was alive, who to me would have been a very formidable voice for the next 50, 60 years. And you had to lose him to now believe him? What happened? How come you didn't believe him a month ago? How come you didn't believe him 6 months ago? Why not just look at somebody and say, this guy seems like reasonable. I think he's being honest. I think he's an honest player. So it's unfortunate that we had to get to a situation like this. So again, just to kind of bring that up to you, is I think Ackman is being fair. He's trying to sell what he believes in. I think the story circulating about Bibi and Israel offering the money and wanting Charlie to go to Israel, I think that's also true that they're doing that. Makes me uncomfortable. And in this story that we hear about, I think the person that won in this story is Charlie Kirk, to be honest with you. And he's not even here with us.
And for people that take it a step further and say Israel are behind the assassination. Now, for me, whenever people come up with theories, I'm like, all right, what is the incentive for such an action? It just doesn't add up. Israel would lose significantly more and probably not gain anything from assassinating someone like Charlie Kirk, assuming they would even do such a thing, which I don't think they would ever assassinate a U.S. citizen that way. I won't go into the Epstein story, but just talking about Charlie Kirk for now, because a lot of people would go crazy, Epstein, etc. It just does not make sense to me. For me, it just does not add up. When someone comes up with a theory like this, they need to explain how they came to that conclusion, not just say, hey, this is our conclusion. For you, do you see any path for such a theory to even be considered?
No, not at all. For me, I don't see that path at all. However, if you're able to prove it with facts, I'm open to it. I just don't see any of it. By the way, Dave Smith, I think he's made a reputation for being the most vocal, holding Israel accountable. Even he came out yesterday and said, what are we talking about here? Are we automatically going to be this lazy and blaming Israel on everything? By the way, you know, the whole bashing Israel was very hot for the last 18 months, 24 months. Some people are tired of it. Some people are saying, it's a little too much. I got it, man. You just don't like them. And something happened to you, and somebody offended you, and you're going to do whatever you can to try to destroy Israel. And it's not really about Israel. It's about a person you don't like. It's about a person that offended you. It's about a person that betrayed you. I totally get it. I fully understand the power of having somebody that offended you publicly for you to, for the rest of your life, wanted to prove them wrong. I get that part. Michael was like that. Brady was like that. A lot of people are like that. Use it. But not at the cost of everything one person did is that entire country's fault, or it's that entire country's behind it. No, I mean, look, I had a lot of guys with the Epstein thing that came here, and we sat down, we talked to them. A lot of guys. I've had a lot of Epstein people that I've interviewed here. Michael Wolff, you know, Whitney Webb, you name them, we've had them on regularly over and over again. And even his brother was with me one time. We did a 3-hour interview. 2 hours of it is live, and the other hour was just sitting down talking. And I do believe they were assets. I do believe they were used. I do believe they sent intel back. I do believe an element of blackmail was used. I do believe all of that stuff happened. I do. I also do believe the fact that you're doing something to Qatar and you don't call Trump and Trump's not happy about it, that phone call that apparently happened that Trump wasn't happy, and then the next day they were better together when him and Bibi spoke. I also believe if you want America to give you all this help and you couldn't take out the 3 nuclear sites and we go and do the job for you they couldn't do, what are you doing stuff without telling us about it? I think that part of it, of me losing trust, is there. But at the same time, to say Israel killed Charlie, you kidding me? Too much, too lazy, lowers your score. If I was in charge of the algorithms and you're making claims like that without any proof, your score literally goes to 0. Yesterday, I had a meeting after our podcast, and I sat down with our talent, and I said the following. I said, guys, can we make a commitment to do something? What's that? Let me give you parenting advice, even though 2 of you guys don't have kids. What's that? Never call your kids stupid. When they do something stupid, don't call them stupid. You could say that's a stupid behavior. You could say that's a dumb behavior. But if I say you're dumb versus that's a dumb behavior, the dumb behavior, I'm not dumb. But the dumb, I am dumb. I don't know if that makes sense. Criticize the behavior. Don't criticize the individual. If somebody you say did something like this, tell them, you know what? I think that's a dumb mistake that Netanyahu made. I think that's a lazy mistake that this person made. If we get into the whole immediately assuming everybody is guilty on what they're doing, It's another one of those behaviors of increasing temperature versus lowering temperature. Great leaders lower temperatures. And when the temperature is high, they stay poised and cause everybody to go like this. That's what great leaders do. Emotional people raise the temperature at all costs. By the way, here's what's weird about emotional people. Emotional people who raise the temperature a lot also get more eyeballs. That doesn't mean they're right. True. So we have to understand that just because somebody gets more eyeballs doesn't mean they're right. It just means they're more entertaining.
Yeah.
And they attract...
In business, you heard the saying, there's a stat that in the boardroom, the loudest person is the one that is listened to, not the one that is right, or not the one that has the facts.
True.
Patrick, one last thing I want to ask you about is your interview with Netanyahu, Prime Minister Netanyahu.
Yes.
You said you got a lot of death threats from it. Very, very sensitive topic, probably the most difficult topic I've ever had to cover. I was pretty direct. I told you earlier, October 7th, Israel had the right to defend itself. And as time went by, I became more and more critical about Gaza, more objective and in the middle when it came to Lebanon, Yemen, Syria, and Iran, which I know you've covered significantly. So what did you come out of the interview? So what was your position when you came into the interview? Has that changed post-interview? And how do you think the interview went? Is there certain questions you wanted to ask? Did they ask you not to say certain things because these are sensitive interviews? They said to you, Patrick, these are topics you cannot ask if you want the interview. And do you think you got everything off your chest?
Sure, great question. So let me kind of go through that with you. One, they didn't say, I can't talk about this or that at all. I never had a call with their team whatsoever. It was booked. I showed up. When I'm getting ready to do the interview, they said, can we start 15 minutes earlier? That was the only thing that threw us off a little bit. We started 15 minutes earlier, and I'm on the other building. When you come to our campus one of these days, we're on 11 acres on an airport, and there's the one hangar on this side, and there's a one hangar on the other side. And they're not close to each other. You got to get downstairs, get on a golf cart, drive this way. That was the only thing that threw us off was the 15 minutes earlier because he was ready to go. He was here 15 minutes early on the screen like you are right now. I had 40 pages of notes. And the night before, I'm sitting there. They're saying I got 30 to 40 minutes. And so in 30 pages of notes, if you narrow it down to 10 topics, then to 5 topics, then to 3 topics, you realize you only have 3 topics to interview because this is the first time you're sitting down with the individual. We're talking right now about a follow-up 2-hour interview, which is what we would need to have to really ask the questions I want to ask. But when you have a 30, 40-minute interview, was 3 things. 1, would the Hamas attack on October 7 happen if Trump was president? He answered that. Number 2, if you're running out of money because this war has cost Israelis $130 billion, their debt to GDP ratio went from 60% to 75%. If you continue going this way, are you all of a sudden going to come to American taxpayers to ask for $50 to $100 billion? And he said, no, we got it under control. Great. He said it on a video. We have it that he's not going to come to American taxpayers, meaning you have it under control. Good for you. 120 to 130 billion dollars, that's a lot of money. And then last one that I asked him was, I'm Armenian, I'm Assyrian, and I wanted to find out about the Armenian and the Assyrian genocide because how is a country that the Holocaust happened to them, how did you not recognize the Armenian genocide? And eventually said, well, I just did. And that was big in the Armenian, Assyrian, and the Greek community because that was documented now, written all over the place, that finally the prime minister said it. So for me, in that interview, I had 3 outcomes. We got all 3 outcomes knocked out of the way. And some of the guys are, well, you didn't ask this, You're right. I didn't ask any of that stuff. I had 2 hours. I didn't ask the question about how did you not know that, if you claim you have the best military intelligence, Mossad, how did you not know that they were attacking you and how could that happen on your borders? I didn't ask that question because a week before, the trigonometry host asked the question already, the exact same question that I wanted to ask. Literally 2 hours. I was here at the office 6 o'clock in the morning. 2 hours. That's on my top 3 list to ask the question. They're like, watch this question. It was asked a week before. I'm like, okay, so that was out the question. I'm not going to ask it. So it's a filtering process, but hopefully we'll get more of a 2-hour interview to do so. And when I do, trust me, I will entertain the 2 hours, but we'll go to different topics than we did on that 30-minute interview.
And you managed to piss off another president, President Erdogan. So congratulations on that.
I don't mind that part at all.
Patrick, absolute pleasure, sir. Thank you so much for jumping on.
Likewise.